This is just a graphics type of tutorial with a little bit of um, a way to intro the Gimp as a great open source graphics tool. In this scenario, I'm looking at the situation where sometimes you're developing your game, you've got a configuration screen or something similar to that. And let's just say, for argument's sake, that on the screen that you're trying to configure, maybe it's the screen for choosing your avatar, for your character or some other kind of configuration. What you might find is that you're going to be throwing up a sort of a system dialog of some kind that really kind of is out of the main flow of the game. And you've got this situation where you want to display an image there. And typically, when you're building up a little user interface for something like that, whether it's inside of your game or otherwise, you wind up with this thing where the image itself is just this kind of anonymous grey area. And even though you can have a button there saying pick the image or whatever, it's really counterintuitive for whoever's trying to use your game or whatever, you play your software. It's difficult to see, okay, what image are you talking about? It's just kind of this big amorphous grey thing here. So what we want to do is actually just create a placeholder image that's going to sit in here and illustrate the fact that there really should be some kind of image there. And what we want to do is get this nice effect that you often see with dialogues like this, where you get this etched sort of 3D effect. So I'm just going to show you how you do that in the Gimp really quickly. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is check my image size. So this little one that we're going to create a placeholder for is 280 by 341. So let's create a new image of that size. File, new. Pretty much everything in the Gimp is done by right-clicking. And you can get it to go to like an all-in-one thing, but I kind of like being able to just use the window like this because I can sort of see what's going on. So I'm going to make a 280 by 341 for my image here. And you can see that by default it's going to come up with this white background, which is okay. That'll do for what we need now. So the first thing I'm going to do is type in my placeholder text, and I'm just going to say make this text a little bit bigger. We want it to pretty much fill the whole image. Okay, we want a really thick, heavy kind of text for this because the etching doesn't look so great unless you've got something pretty heavy. And also it should actually be completely black. So let's just make sure we've got this black in color. And we'll make sure that's centralized. Okay, so we've got our text now, and You can see it's created a new layer here. The other thing we actually want is a nice little frame around this. So let's add in a frame here. We're going to use a rounded rectangle with a radius on it. When you select the Rect tool by default, it doesn't have rounded corners, so you can turn that on if you want rounded corners. Okay. So what I did there was I just bordered that selection. To get this to actually fill, I'm going to have to do it down here on the white layer. Okay. Merge down. Okay, so now we want to choose Map, Bump Map, and we're going to choose our text layer as the actual bump map. Now I've got Compensate for Darkening turned on, which is what you want. Otherwise the background here is going to come out really dark. You can invert it to get a kind of a raised effect. I want it to look as though it's a bit sunken. Okay, so there's my final result, and I'm just going to save this as this is another thing with the Gimp, is it does have its own native format called XCF. I recommend whenever you've been working on a Gimp project to just take the time out to save it in its native format. So we're going to call this placeholder image and save it as a Gimp document. What that'll mean is all the layers and stuff are all preserved, so if we want to fiddle with this we can come back to it later. And now that I've done that, I'm going to then export a copy of this as a Png file. And I'm just going to drag that over here into my project. And of course it'll get copied in. Now I can tell Xcode to use that. And now we've got a nice little chiseled placeholder image. Okay, so I hope that helped, and we'll see you next time.